Earth was in chaos. Alien fleets had gathered around the planet, their massive warships shining in the night sky like eerie, distant stars. People across the globe were glued to their screens, watching news broadcasts showing images of these terrifying ships surrounding Earth, preparing for an all-out invasion. The United Galactic Order, a powerful alliance of alien species that had dominated galaxies for centuries, had declared Earth to be too dangerous and unpredictable. To them, humans were a risk, an aggressive, ambitious species that needed to be stopped before they could grow even more dangerous. General Marcus, a tough, sharp-minded military leader, watched the skies from his base in silence. The Galactic Order outnumbered Earth's defenses 100-1. Human technology, though advanced by Earth's standards, was still far behind the aliens. The Galactic Order had shields strong enough to block most Earth weapons, ships that could warp through space instantly, and troops equipped with armor stronger than Earth's toughest metal. It seemed like a one-sided fight, with Earth destined to lose. But General Marcus wasn't ready to give up. He called his top officers into the war room, a cold, dimly lit room with screens showing every angle of the alien fleet and the Earth's defense points. The officers looked nervous. They all knew the odds were against them. Taking a deep breath, Marcus began. "Ladies and gentlemen, the aliens think they've already won. They believe we're weak, outnumbered, and unprepared. But we have one thing they don't know about Project Genesis." The room went silent. Project Genesis was a top-secret operation known only to a few people. It was humanity's last desperate hope. The idea was simple but risky: to create a cloned army, soldiers that could be produced quickly and in large numbers, ready to defend Earth. These clones were designed to be strong, fearless, and fully loyal. They would be humanity's answer to the alien threat. Marcus explained that the clones were already in development in a hidden lab deep underground, away from the alien sensors and spies. If successful, Project Genesis could turn the tide of the war. The officers listened intently as Marcus continued. "I know some of you have doubts about cloning soldiers, but this is our last chance. Without these clones, we won't stand a chance. The Galactic Order will crush us, but with them, we may have just enough strength to fight back." Meanwhile, in the hidden lab known as the Vault, Dr. Elena Torres, the lead scientist on Project Genesis, was working non-stop. She was a brilliant geneticist who had spent years studying human DNA and developing ways to clone humans rapidly. Rows of large glass tanks filled with a blue liquid lined the lab, each holding a figure slowly taking shape, a cloned soldier. They were still incomplete, but with every passing hour, they were growing closer to being ready for battle. Dr. Torres had mixed feelings about the project. She was proud of the scientific achievement, but there was a lingering sadness in her heart. These clones would be used as soldiers, sent into a war they hadn't asked for. They were created for one purpose: to fight and possibly die to protect Earth. It felt wrong, yet she knew there was no other option. If humanity was to survive, they needed these clones. One clone in particular caught Dr. Torres's attention. This one was ahead of the others, nearly complete. She named him Bonner. Bonner was tall, muscular, and had an intense look in his eyes, even as he floated in the cloning tank, still unformed in personality but showing hints of curiosity and awareness. She would often find herself standing by his tank, talking to him softly, as if he could hear her. "You're special, Bonner," she would say. "You're going to help save us all." Back in the war room, General Marcus gave his final orders. In just a few days, the Galactic Order would launch their attack. Earth needed to be ready. He looked at his officers, seeing fear mixed with determination. They all understood what was at stake. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," Marcus said firmly. "We're fighting for our families, our future, and our right to exist. We may be outnumbered, but with Project Genesis, we have a chance." The officers nodded, their resolve growing. Earth would not surrender. They would use every resource, every ounce of strength to defend their home. And as the clock ticked down to the invasion, the secret army in the vault continued to grow. With each passing moment, the clones were getting closer to being ready. Deep underground, hidden from the alien invaders, a high-tech facility known as the Vault hummed with activity. This was the birthplace of Earth's secret weapon, an army of clones. The lab was unlike anything on Earth. Sleek metal walls lined with blinking lights and screens filled the space, each one monitoring the progress of a growing army. Scientists moved around swiftly, focused and tense, for they knew time was running out. Leading them was Dr. Elena Torres, a brilliant geneticist who had dedicated her life to creating the perfect soldiers. She was determined to give humanity a fighting chance against the powerful Galactic Order. The vault held rows upon rows of large glass tanks, filled with a blue, shimmering liquid. Inside each tank, a figure was slowly taking shape. They were clones, exact copies of a single human soldier, but engineered to be faster, stronger, and fearless. They didn't yet know who they were or why they were created, but soon they would be Earth's last line of defense. The facility was quiet except for the hum of machines and the gentle bubbling of the tanks as the clones developed. Dr. Torres watched the tanks with a mix of pride and worry. She had been working day and night to complete the project on time. Cloning humans on this scale was a risky experimental process. Any mistake could result in failure, or worse, clones that were unstable or unable to fight. Each tank displayed data on a screen next to it, vital signs, physical development, and completion percentages. Dr. Torres checked each one carefully, ensuring everything was on track. Her gaze settled on one tank in particular, where a clone, nearly complete, floated in the blue liquid. She had named him Bonner. Bonner was the first of the clones, the leader of this new army. He was different, larger, stronger, with a face that held a surprising amount of expression for someone not yet fully awake. He had dark hair, sharp features, and even in his suspended state, he looked fierce and ready for battle. Dr. Torres felt a strange connection to him, as though he was more than just a clone. She often found herself standing by his tank, talking to him as if he could hear her. "You're special, Bonner," she whispered. "You're going to help save us all. You may be a clone, but you're as human as anyone else in this fight." One night, as she monitored Bonner's vitals, Dr. Torres saw something extraordinary. Bonner's eyes, closed for so long, began to open. His gaze was calm but intense, as though he was already aware of the world around him. He looked at Dr. Torres through the glass, studying her face with curiosity. She felt a chill run down her spine. It was as if he understood her words. This silent exchange made her believe he was more than just a soldier. There was something uniquely human in his gaze, something she hadn't expected to see in a clone. Dr. Torres turned to her assistant, Samuel, a young, nervous scientist who had just joined the project. "Samuel, run the final tests on Bonner," she instructed. "He's almost ready." Samuel nodded and began typing commands into the console. The tank's blue liquid began to drain slowly, and Bonner's body was carefully lowered onto a platform, now awake and alert. Clad in simple combat gear, he stood tall, his powerful frame looking ready for the challenges ahead. He glanced around, taking in his surroundings as if he was processing everything for the first time. Dr. Torres approached him slowly. "Bonner," she said softly, "do you understand why you're here?" Bonner looked at her with a steady gaze and nodded. "To protect Earth," he replied, his voice deep and confident. Though his understanding was still basic, his sense of duty was clear. The other clones would follow him. He was their leader, the first of many who would stand against the alien invaders. Meanwhile, as the cloning process continued, not all clones were as developed as Bonner. Some tanks showed incomplete forms, clones still growing but running out of time. With the invasion looming, every clone mattered. Dr. Torres knew the risks. Many of these soldiers would enter the battle unfinished, not fully prepared, yet they would be crucial in tipping the scales. In the war room, General Marcus received updates on the clones' progress. He knew they were taking a huge gamble, but he trusted Dr. Torres and her team. These clones, though born in a lab, were humanity's best hope for survival. The Galactic Order believed they had already won, that Earth was weak and defenseless, but the humans had a secret they'd soon unleash. Back in the lab, Dr. Torres watched her creation with a bittersweet smile. She knew Bonner and the others would face unimaginable dangers. They weren't just weapons, they were people, clones with human hearts, souls, and the courage to protect the planet. As Bonner prepared to lead his brothers and sisters into the battle of their lives, Dr. Torres felt a deep respect and sadness. Earth's fate was in their hands, and she had done all she could to make them ready. The battle raged on as Earth's cloned army faced off against the powerful forces of the Galactic Order. The alien troops were relentless, their weapons and armor far superior to what humans had ever encountered. Bright lasers and powerful energy blasts tore through the battlefield, lighting up the smoke-filled air. It looked like Earth had no chance, until the clones, led by Bonner, began to show their true strength. Bonner, the first clone created and the leader of the cloned soldiers, fought with skill and intensity. His movements were sharp and precise, and he seemed to anticipate the aliens' every move. Bonner's squad of clones moved in perfect sync with him, following his lead. Each clone was a skilled warrior, trained through advanced simulations before ever stepping onto the battlefield. Together they formed a powerful wave, pushing back against the aliens who had once thought Earth was defenseless. Dr. Elena Torres watched the battle from the command center, her heart pounding. She had dedicated her life to creating this cloned army, but seeing them fight, watching Bonner and his squad battle so fearlessly, filled her with pride and a deep, painful hope. These clones were not just soldiers, they were humanity's last chance. But as she watched Bonner push deeper into the alien lines, taking on more enemies than anyone else, she also felt a pang of fear. She knew he would stop at nothing to protect Earth, even if it meant sacrificing himself. As the clones advanced, Bonner's squad reached a heavily guarded alien outpost. The aliens, shocked by the strength and determination of these cloned soldiers, fought harder, pouring all their firepower into Bonner and his team. Explosions rocked the ground around them, and thick smoke filled the air. But Bonner didn't flinch. He charged forward, dodging blasts and using his combat skills to take down alien after alien. The clones followed him fearlessly, pushing forward despite the heavy resistance. Suddenly, a massive alien soldier stepped in front of Bonner. This alien was stronger and faster than the others, with armor that could withstand almost any attack. Bonner knew this was no ordinary enemy. This was one of the Galactic Order's elite warriors. A fierce battle broke out as Bonner and the alien fought, each one determined to emerge victorious. Blasts of energy filled the air and sparks flew as their weapons clashed. Bonner took hit after hit but kept going, his eyes fixed on his opponent with a look of fierce determination. Then, in a sudden, selfless move, Bonner saw an opportunity. He noticed Dr. Torres's location nearby, and alien troops were moving toward her position. Without a second thought, Bonner made a choice. He used the last of his strength to charge at the elite alien soldier, distracting him long enough for the other clones to push the remaining alien troops back. Bonner's sacrifice was sudden but powerful. He had given his life to protect not only Earth but also the very person who had given him life. Dr. Torres watched in horror as Bonner fell, his last act one of bravery and selflessness. She felt a deep pain in her chest, a sadness she had never expected. Bonner had been more than a clone to her. He had shown courage, loyalty, and a strange but real connection to his human creators. His death sent a ripple of emotion through the other clones, who fought with renewed intensity. They had lost their leader, but his sacrifice had given them the strength to keep fighting. Word of Bonner's sacrifice spread quickly among the human and clone forces. Soldiers who had felt fear and doubt suddenly felt a surge of courage. Inspired by Bonner's actions, they pushed forward, determined to honor his memory by winning the battle. The clones, who had been created in a lab with no real knowledge of human emotions, now fought with something deeper than duty. They fought with the passion and resilience of humans, and it made all the difference. The tide of the battle began to turn. The alien troops, once so confident and unshakable, started to fall back under the force of the human and clone armies combined. With each step forward, Earth's defenders grew stronger, while the Galactic Order's forces grew weaker. The aliens, who had believed Earth would be an easy conquest, were now realizing the power of human spirit and unity. They had underestimated their opponent, and now they were paying the price. In the end, the human and cloned armies stood victorious on the battlefield. The alien forces, once so threatening and unstoppable, had been pushed back, their fleet forced to retreat. The Galactic Order, beaten and humiliated, withdrew, leaving Earth battered but unbroken. Dr. Torres stood quietly, looking out over the battlefield, thinking of Bonner. His sacrifice had turned the tide of the war and saved humanity. In that moment, she realized that Bonner and his fellow clones weren't just tools of war. They were a part of humanity, a reminder of its courage, its strength, and its will to survive. As she watched the clones gathering around her, victorious but solemn, She knew Bonner's legacy would live on in each of them. As the dust settled on the battlefield, a rare silence filled the air. Earth's forces had won. The Galactic Order, once so powerful and feared, had been defeated and forced to retreat, leaving behind shattered weapons, abandoned equipment, and the scars of battle. Human and clone soldiers stood together, exhausted yet proud, each one bearing marks of the intense struggle. For the first time in weeks, there was no sound of gunfire or the roar of alien war machines, only the quiet triumph of survival. Dr. Elena Torres stood among the soldiers, her heart heavy with a strange mix of pride and sorrow. The victory was real, but it had come at a great cost. She looked around, seeing the clones she had created standing side by side with the human soldiers, each one a living testament to Earth's resilience. Her gaze fell upon Bonner's squad, the group that had fought so bravely and suffered so many losses. She felt a deep, silent connection with them, knowing that they had not only fought for Earth, but had done so for Bonner's memory. The survivors gathered in a makeshift camp, sharing quiet words and nods of respect. Despite their lab-grown origins, the clones were treated like true comrades, equals in every way. The human soldiers shook their hands, patted their shoulders, and exchanged grateful glances. The clones had proven themselves, showing not only physical strength but also bravery, loyalty, and something far more meaningful, a willingness to sacrifice for others. They were no longer just soldiers created for war, they were part of humanity's family. Dr. Torres took a moment to sit alone by a quiet hillside, reflecting on everything that had happened. The images of Bonner's last stand played through her mind. She could still see him charging into the fray, giving his life to save hers and turn the tide of the battle. His courage and determination had been remarkable, and the fact that he had done it by choice, with his own understanding of the danger, was both heart-wrenching and inspiring. As she sat in thought, Samuel, her assistant, approached quietly and sat beside her. He had also been deeply moved by Bonner's actions. "He wasn't just a clone, was he?" Samuel asked softly. "He was something more." Dr. Torres nodded, a sad smile on her face. "Yes, he was. He may have been created in a lab, but Bonner was more human than many people I've known. He understood bravery, loyalty, and sacrifice. He showed us all what it means to truly fight for something." She felt a deep sense of responsibility for creating the clones, but she also felt a strange pride. Bonner and his fellow clones were her legacy, a legacy she hadn't anticipated, but one that would forever change the way humanity saw itself.